Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Daily Cannon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here, bringing you the tactical tweaks and quirks that came from Arsenal's, look, let's just go ahead and say it, title bid confirming victory over Manchester United yesterday in the Premier League. I'll say it, I'll get it out of the way. Arsenal are in a title race. There's only two teams left in it, and we are one of them. It's now impossible to ignore the talk of saying, well, maybe we're not very good, or maybe we need to prove things, or maybe we need to put together a consistent run of form. Lads, we're 5 points clear with the game at hand. We're 11 points clear of Newcastle. 11 points clear of Manchester United in third and fourth with a game in hand. We are 17 points clear at the Champions League places with a game in hand. Like, if this is title winning form, nothing is. And again, I'll qualify it. Do I think Arsenal will win the league? No. Do I think this team has another gear in it? Yes. But as the season goes on, the list of extraordinary things that needs to happen for Arsenal to win the league keeps getting ticked off and ticked off and ticked off. And when you look at City's fixtures, when FA Cup, write that one off. That means nothing. The next league fixture, Tottenham away, Villa at home, us. There's a chance to get 3 points out of those three games. If Manchester City get 3 points out of those three games, the league's over. Like, there's no point even sugarcoating it. The league is over. And it's one of those situations where you just have to credit this Arsenal team for being so consistent over the first part of the year. It's 50 points in 19 games. It is ridiculous. And it is because of performances like yesterday, where they made three mistakes in 90 minutes, tops, and Manchester United punished them for it. And as a result, it gave the impression that this was a close game. This was not a close game. This was a paddling. This was a thrashing. And in the Tottenham video a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how the stats made both teams look very similar because they had similar XG and similar shots on target and similar passes and similar big chances. And I tried to illustrate how that was false because Arsenal had so much more of the ball and so much more possession in key areas that the game was over when Tottenham started to try playing football. 3.25 to 3.6 XG. 25 shots to 6. 3 big chances, 1 big chance missed. 423 accurate passes and 307. Look at this. That's not a shot map, that's chicken pox. Look at it. Like, you need to see a doctor if you see a map like that. Like, Arsenal were influencing the game in such an extent that United were not lucky to only lose 3-2, but it did show that United are a better side than they were 6 months ago, and that they are turning into a team that can take those 2 to 3 chances they get a game and make a game out of it. But they are far, far, far behind what Arsenal did yesterday. And the reason is because United's team was set up to play away. And, Erik Ten Hag is getting a lot of credit for tactically changing Manchester United. But he made 2 unbelievably naive calls yesterday that helped Arsenal pretty much have a foothold in the game no matter what. And both of them involved Christian Eriksen. He's a wonderful player, right? And I guess he's pretty much the only player that Ten Hag can trust on the ball as a passer. Can't trust McTominay. Fernandes is more of a counter-attacking threat, and you want him to make one pass. You don't want him to make 50. And you want Anthony and Rashford to run, and you want Weghorst just to sit there and basically just play almost like a pinball. Just stand there and bounce balls off him, like a very poor man's Giroud. So you need Eriksen. Why Casemiro is so good? Because Casemiro could be McTominay and Eriksen in the same player. But Eriksen just doesn't have the ability to do this. He barely has the ability to do this. But because he can't cover space, it just meant that if Anthony doesn't track back and does his defensive work, which he did in fits and spurts, it was Eriksson and Wan-Bissaka versus Zinchenko, Xhaka, and Martinelli all game long. And this was a nightmare. Because Wan-Bissaka was, if it was one-on-one, as he proved a couple of times, Wan-Bissaka was a brilliant one-on-one defender. Brilliant one-on-one defender. But if you give him space to mark, he can't do it. And Eriksson tried his best, but struggled in keeping up with the fact that Xhaka and Zinchenko just completely overwhelmed him, and he couldn't mark all three at once. And what happened was what you expect to happen. Varane comes over, Martinez comes over, McTominay comes over, and Arsenal were left with this all game long. Luke Shaw versus Bukayo Saka. And as a result, every time the ball went right, it was Saka versus Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw had one of his worst games at fullback as a United player. It's why they're trying to put him in centre back a lot more, because Saka, again, he's very left footed. Everyone knows that he wants to cut in, but he is strong enough on his right where this is a threat. And for the first half, Arsenal did a good job of, sending White on, dummy runs around, getting Rashford to commit to marking Ben White so that Odegaard had some free space, because Odegaard did have free space because McTominay kept coming over here because Eriksson wasn't able to mark both Xhaka and Zinchenko. So Saka had this, and as the game went on, Shaw wasn't able to stay touch tight because Saka would just go around him like that and beat him again and again. So Shaw had to stay away from him. And it's just one of those situations where you're just asking for trouble. And you're asking what Arsenal can do from here. But it's from this exact position when Saka was trying to attack, when United had the rare ball, where United took the lead. Because Arsenal were trying to be progressive. They were trying to get the ball out quick. They knew that they had these chances of overloads. And Partey, Saliba and Saka have the ball. Saka gives it to Partey, but it's blocked by Rashford. Partey then tries to pass it to Odegaard so that they can start a counter-attack. It's blocked by Rashford again, and it bounces to Fernandes, who runs this way. It's then one-on-one, Rashford and Partey. Rashford beats him. Fantastic nutmeg. And he thumps it into the bottom corner, and you've been Football Manager, and it's 1-0. And sometimes when an opposition scores a goal like that, all you can do is swear. Because Arsenal did the right thing 3 times in a row and conceded. They were supposed to try and beat, a United press. They were supposed to try and beat, to pass progressively. They were supposed to try and get the ball out to Odegaard. It takes a lucky bounce off Rashford, goes to Fernandes, who gives it back, and Rashford is in world-class form right now, and he thumps it in, and it's 1-0. And it's exactly at this point over the last few years where you worried about Arsenal, where you're like, oh God, they've played well. Ben White's already on a yellow. His opposition, the person he's supposed to be marking, has just scored. So he's going to be running at him all game, to the extent that in the second half he had to be subbed. And you're like, well, what are Arsenal going to do? How are Arsenal going to react? What are they going to do to change things? And the brilliant answer is nothing. They just kept what they were doing. They kept overloading here. They kept making sure that Eriksson and McTominay and Anthony and Fernandes kept having to come back here, leaving this free. And the goal comes from a corner where Arsenal pretty much lob it in. But Wan-Bissaka, United have a curious zonal marking system where they're right back in their left back almost swap positions. It's weird. And as a result, Wan-Bissaka is right back. And Nketiah, who has one elite skill, and it's just knowing where to be at the right place. He just has an innate sense of knowing where the ball is going to go. If you've ever watched the Chicago Bulls documentary on Netflix, The Last Dance, and you'll watch Dennis Rodman give a masterclass in just knowing how to rebound, because he just knows where the ball is going to bounce off the rim. If it goes to the front, it's going to go there. If it hits the side, it's going to go there. He just knows. Nketiah just knew that because Arsenal had a 3-on-2 here, and it gets to Xhaka, and Xhaka puts the ball in. Shaw's here, Varane is here, Martinez is here. The only place he can score is here. Problem is, if you're a United fan, is that Wan-Bissaka doesn't realise this. And almost tries to close him off. To try and start hoping the fact that Varane or Martinez gets the ball, or De Gea catches the ball, and he can start a counter-attack and he can get back in position. So, Nketiah just runs around. Like, it's brilliant anticipation, and it's one of those ones where you just take a gamble, and you're like, you rely on good centre-forward play. And that's what he did, and it was 1-1, and it goes to the break, where Arsenal are just on top, and threatening and threatening and threatening. But the difference between this Arsenal team and the Arsenal team of last year, where they started on their good run, was that they could put pressure on you. They could put a lot of pressure on you. They could push up like this, like they would, with Zinchenko coming in, Xhaka there, Partey there, Odegaard would go central, and then Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White would go there, and they would force you in. And like, if you look at the heat map, you can see how far Arsenal pushed forward, especially in the second half after it went 2-2. Like, that one. Arsenal were able to push United all the way back at times. And it is games like this where, yes, you're going to have games where a good passing move will provide an advantage, where a good passing move will take defenders out of the way. But occasionally, what you need is to pull a goal out your backside. What you need is a player that can just score from nowhere. A player that can produce a easily repeatable piece of skill, but do it in such an effect that you can't stop it. Just like, say, Arjen Robben for Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Ajax, etc., where he would get the ball here, and I know he's going to cut in, you know he's going to cut in, the world knows he's going to cut in. So when he does cut in, everyone does that. And they just close up. And they say, there is not a hope in hell you're going to score from there. But what did Robben do for 10 years? He would take the ball and he would shoot from there and he'd put it in the top corner. And you'd go, well, we did the right thing. What are we supposed to do? This is the next evolution of Bukayo Saka's game, where a fullback has to stand off you because he's so afraid of you going this way that now it's like, well, I'm not letting him have this space. Even if Ben White, who by this time would put in Tommy Aston, is doing this all game long. He provides a lot more of an overlapping threat than Ben White does. Shaw has to stand off because he has to cover this threat too. So Saka is running at him, and then cuts in, and then pulled out his Arjen Robben cheat sheet, his copy paste, and thrashes it into the bottom corner. 2-1, and Arsenal are set. And if he can do that on a semi-regular basis, and Martinelli, Xhaka, and Zinchenko can make your defence do this, how are you going to stop this team? Like, if you have to worry so much about these three here tearing this side of your defence apart, where you have to push everyone across, but if you do, you open up the threat of the right winger just pumping one into the bottom corner. What do you do? And after United's second goal through a comedy of errors at the corner, where again Arsenal get FM'd, what do you do? And Ten Hag made his second mistake. He took off a player to try and shore up this system, this 4-2-3-1, and change it in a sense that can force Arsenal into changing the way they play. And what he did was he took off Anthony and he moved Eriksen out of here and he put Fred in there. And essentially did this. Fred there, Eriksen here, and played narrow. And said to Arsenal, right, we're going to, in essence, play 5 at the back with McTominay there, Fred that. Now, considering Arsenal had had all of their success running down the wings, Ten Hag has just said to them, you can have all that space you want. And it's throttled them. Again, look at this heat map. Left and right. Arsenal were able to get the ball. Get rid of that. Arsenal were able to get the ball here and here, which is here and here at will. So Odegaard would go in here, Tomiyasu would go in here, Saliba would cover, Partey would go in here. Give me Partey. There we go. Partey would be in there. And we've talked about Arsenal playing 2-3-5 and 3-2-5 at times. With Odegaard, Saka, and Tomiyasu often there, this is 2-2-6. And again, you're asking Eriksen to cover 2 players. You're asking Weghorst to cover space. You're asking Fernandez to cover space. Tomine to cover Nketiah now. Fred to cover Odegaard. Couldn't do it. And Arsenal for 30 minutes just camped outside Manchester United box and had chance after chance after chance. And it was only a matter of time before they broke through. And it was because they were exhausted. And instead of having Martinelli, who was just standing here all the time, what they had was Trossard, who is more than comfortable to go here, give me him, here, which meant Wan-Bissaka, who was tasked with man-marking him, now wanted to follow him, which meant Xhaka was free, which meant Zinchenko was free. Nketiah gets here, Odegaard gets here. It's a great block, actually, by Fred on Odegaard. But because Arsenal had so many players waiting, it would have been an absolute crime if this block didn't go to a red shirt. And it did. And it was Nketiah, and it's 3-2. And this was how Arsenal scored in the 92nd minute against Manchester United. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like I said, look at this. Like, the only shock really was that it took them to the 92nd minute to get the goal. But this is the Arsenal team now. 5 minutes to go, end of a game. They're winning it. They're going to win it. They are going for the throat. They're not settling for 2-2. They're not settling for a draw. They're not settling for a point against their rival that might give them a mind boost. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. And that's the difference. That's what's going to separate Arsenal over the next couple of months. This mindset of we're going for the win. We're staying for the win. We're not settling for 2-2. And if they can keep that, and they can keep that focus, and they can get, if Arsenal is still top by the time Gabriel Jesus gets back, Arsenal win the league. I will guarantee that. Because Arsenal's next game, Everton at home. Who just sacked Frank Lampard? It's It is getting harder and harder to find ways to illustrate how Arsenal can't win the league without it being a catastrophe. And every time you watch this Arsenal tie play, the further you think a catastrophe is away. If you did enjoy this video, again, feel free to hit the like button. If you do want these videos in your inbox on a regular basis, hit subscribe. If you want to be notified every time they come up, hit the little bell beside it, and you'll get a little notification saying, "Hi, Stephen Bradley's here to tell you how Arsenal won again." Because right now, that's how it's been for the last couple of months. All I've been doing is telling you how they've won again. And it's been a different way every time. Long may it continue. Cheers.